Wednesday, July 22. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. As of Wednesday morning, the island has recorded 810 cases of COVID-19. One new COVID-19 case was recorded in the island in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, 3 more patients have recovered and released from care. This brings the number of recoveries to 709. The newly confirmed positive case arrived on a flight from the United States. She is 20 years old, staying in St. Catherine. There are now 60 active cases under observation in Jamaica. 31 cases have been repatriated to their countries of origin. There are 2 moderately ill patients, but none critically ill at this time. 5 persons of interest are in quarantine at government facilities, while over 17,000 are quarantined at home. The states of public emergencies have been extended across the island to September 3. The House of Representatives voted to extend measures on Tuesday. Prime Minister Andrew Holness called on the Parliament to remain united in the fight against crime.
Therefore, in keeping with this commitment, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking this Honourable House to unite. In continuing the states of public emergency in the tri-parish areas of Hanover, St. James and Westmoreland, the bi-parish areas of St. Catherine and Clarendon, Kingston East Police Division, Kingston Central, and Kingston Western Police Divisions. When we take these actions, it is because we have a deep understanding of the challenges that, whether you're on that side or this side, that you face. And the only method that we have seen that gives that kind of sustained presence, that works, is this framework of the SOEs. We have never said it is a perfect measure. Indeed, if we could get the full support to have another form, another framework in place where exceptional powers can be exercised, quite in the nature of how we have exercised exceptional powers for the pandemic, I believe we would advance significantly in fighting crime.
Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips indicated he would only support an extension to September 3 due to expected election campaigning.
There is the case that in law, as provided for by the Election Commission, what is called now the election period, campaign period, begins on August 25th. I am prepared to extend this, to vote in favor of an extension to August 25th. I am also prepared, and I believe we on this side would be prepared, if need be, and there is such a dialogue underway and it becomes necessary, to return to the Parliament in the period of the recess to have further consideration of extensions should it become necessary.
The measure passed with 48 MPs voting in favor. The Prime Minister was seeking an extension to October 24. The extension was only approved to September. The government is moving to put a leash on instances of violent attacks by dogs. Legislation is coming that provides for both civil and criminal liability for dog owners in instances where they become a danger to the public. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck tabled the bill, which will replace the Dogs Liability for Injuries Act 1877 in Parliament on Tuesday. Marlon Samuels reports.
The move follows several vicious dog attacks on members of the public in recent times, which has led to a national outcry for the issue to be addressed. Minister Chuck says his ministry will work with other relevant ministries to address the issues such as licensing, registration, insurance, breeding, and importation. Under the proposed amendments, a dog owner is defined as the person who occupies the premises where the dog is kept, has custody and care of the dog when the injury occurred, or who caused the dog to be in a public place where the injury occurred. This broad definition therefore means that the dog owner will be responsible for keeping dogs under control and fitting them with restraints such as muzzles to prevent them from attacking or injuring any member of the public. But what about fines? The proposed bill is on the website of the Ministry of Justice and Parliament, and interested persons are encouraged to examine the bill and send their comments to Parliament. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
The restorative justice centers across the island have resumed full operations. In April, these centers scaled down operations owing to the suspension of parish court sittings due to the coronavirus COVID-19. In addition to face-to-face sessions, virtual conferences are now a feature of the unit. A restorative justice conference is one of the community-centered tools being used to address disputes by facilitating a meeting of the victim, offender, and members of the community, thereby helping to achieve a sense of healing for both the victim and community. Dunn's River Falls and Park and the Green Grotto Cave attractions are now open to the public. The two attractions have been certified by the Tourism Product Development Company Limited as compliant with the Ministry of Tourism and the Urban Development Corporation's COVID-19 protocols for attractions. This includes the installation of hand washing stations, signage, and social distancing markers to manage the safety of all staff and guests. The Portmore branch of the Alarica call center will reportedly close its doors permanently. In April, an outbreak of COVID-19 cases at the location resulted in a shutdown of both the company's Portmore and Kingston sites. It also triggered a lockdown of the entire parish of St. Catherine. According to the Health Ministry, more than 236 COVID-19 cases are linked to that workplace cluster. Alorica, like other business process outsourcing firms, has activated work-from-home arrangements. Alarica delivered news of the permanent closure of its Portmore offices to its staff recently, citing challenging times in the last few months. The Kingston site will reportedly reopen. An 88-year-old resident of Bogue, St. Elizabeth is the latest recipient of a new home under the government social housing initiative. The initiative, announced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness in November 2018, was developed to improve the housing and standard of living of Jamaica's poor and indigent population. Melvin Pennant has the details.
88-year-old Winston Wind, who has a number of disabilities, is all smiles after he received a one-bedroom home under the social housing program NSHP.
It's okay, Jesus, to my happiness, but not man, because where I live in there, Lord God, you're on the way like how you would, like you're on the way for me, like how you did. Over the mountain, the mule let you down because the river Jordan, and you mount the donkey, and the donkey carry you over the river Jordan, Almighty God, and you bless him. That's the donkey can have Covey, and Covey and multiply, and the mule can never multiply. Hallelujah.
Constructed at a cost of $5.9 million, the house has a living area, kitchen, and bathroom. It is connected to a septic tank and has a connection for potable water and electricity.
The program was designed to deal with social housing within constituencies directed by the Member of Parliament. And it was designed to get to the poorest of the poor. And it is important that we have the intervention of the Member of Parliament, because though members of Parliament get criticized, and sometimes brutally so, the truth is that where state agencies do not make the connection, do not reach the people, or stop short, it is the Member of Parliament and the councillors who are called upon to go the last mile, make the connection, and who would truly have sometimes the deeper understanding of the challenges that the people of the area face. So they can make very good selection decisions. And I believe that the decision made by MP Redwood to select our beneficiary today, Mr. Wind, was a good decision. there is no question whatsoever about Mr. Wynn deserving this benefit.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone that be here today, hallelujah, by your strength, oh Lord God, keep us and deliver us from the hands of the enemy. In Yemen and Yemen, Lord.
The NSHP consists of 3 pillars: the provision of indigent housing, which will see 315 housing units being built each year; the relocation of vulnerable communities, which will give priority to persons in clear and present danger; and the upgrading of tenement yards. 5 units have already been completed, including the transformation of a tenement yard in Anata Bay.
Part of this project is that we're going to initiate a design competition.
Thank you, Jesus.
I have raised this issue before with the director of the program, Mr. Danville Walker. Very important point, because we are constructing these houses which can withstand category 3 and 4 hurricanes. So they are well constructed units. This will last for generations. But we are using traditional building systems and traditional building technologies and materials. I believe the time has come for us to use our creativity as a people. And we have the capacity here to do it between the University of the West Indies and the University of Technology, to start designing building systems that are modular, easy to build, and inexpensive. And I'm sure that the capacity exists.
Melvin Pennant for PBCJ News.
Reggae crooner Hyland Dobson has died. He was 78. Tommy Cowan of Glory Music reported that Mr. Dobson had COVID-19 and he passed away on Tuesday at a hospital in Florida. Mr. Cowan told the press that Mr. Dobson had Alzheimer's for a while now and was living in a home where he was diagnosed with COVID-19. Dobby Dobson started singing in the 1950s, but the singer's big break came in 1971 when he recorded That Wonderful Sound for Rupi Edwards. He had stints with legendary producers Cox and Dobb and Duke Reid, recording as a member of both the Virtues and the Sheiks. He gave us tunes like Loving Pauper, That Wonderful Sound, and Mexican Divorce. In 1979, Dobson migrated to the United States. In August 2011, he was conferred with the Order of Distinction in the rank of Officer OD for his contribution to reggae music and Jamaican culture. Now, to keep you abreast with the latest movements in the local and international markets, we join Gabriel Thompson for the Business Report.
In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index declined by 3,243 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 71 stocks, of which 18 advanced, 41 declined, and 12 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 51 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Caribbean Cream Limited, Caribbean Producers Jamaica, and Fontana Limited. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments, Berger Paints Jamaica, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Trading firm were CAC 2000 9.5%, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, and Siboney Group Limited. Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial was the volume leader with over 18 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with 3.2 million units and Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited with 2.5 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Tuesday, July 21 ended trading at $147.05. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $110.47. The pound sterling traded for $186.44, and the euro ended trading at $170.43. Oil prices fell on Wednesday as industry data showed a bigger than expected inventory build in the United States, where a surge in coronavirus cases could further dent fuel demand in the world's biggest oil consumer. Brent crude futures fell 60 cents to $43.72 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slid 70 cents to settle at $41.22 a barrel. And that's it for the business report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
In today's Living Healthy report, host Simone Absalom explores the race by the international medical fraternity to develop a COVID-19 vaccine. Specific to our region, we will look at the role of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, in the research.
Countries in the Americas are pooling their efforts to ensure access to treatments and vaccines for COVID-19. For your information, vaccines reduce risks of getting a disease by working with your body's natural defenses to build protection. Director of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, Carissa Etienne, says the PAHO revolving fund for vaccines can be used as a strategic asset to buy and distribute vaccines for COVID-19 when they become available. The PAHO revolving fund, a shared mechanism for purchasing and delivering vaccines, has worked for 35 years to pool resources for 41 countries.
This includes having our member states from Latin America and the Caribbean join the COVAX facility through our revolving fund. Acting as a bloc, PAHO member states will benefit from our technical expertise as well as our decades of experience securing and distributing vaccines quickly and efficiently.
The World Health Organization says there are 23 COVID-19 vaccines currently in clinical trials globally in countries like Russia, the United States, Cuba, and China. Ms. Etienne says PAHO has been working with the World Health Organization and its partners to provide a safe choice.
PAHO will work with our member states to establish the best immunization strategies and to strengthen and adapt the systems that may be required to deliver these novel vaccines. Together, we will focus on protecting those most at risk: health workers, the elderly, and people with comorbidities. PAHO is also coordinated with Gov't and other partners to guarantee that the most vulnerable countries in our region receive the vaccine against COVID-19 in a subsidized manner and at an affordable price.
We now have vaccines to prevent more than 20 life-threatening diseases, helping people of all ages live longer, healthier lives. They are usually administered through immunization. For your information, immunization is a process whereby a person is made resistant to an infectious disease, typically by the administration of a vaccine. Immunization currently prevents 2.3 million deaths every year from diseases like diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, influenza, and measles. It's expected that the COVID-19 vaccine will join this list, but the PAHO boss says this depends on how countries plan ahead.
The virus has redefined how we perceive time. In a few short months, it has transformed our way of life, our region, and our economies. We must look ahead to plan how we will select, manufacture, pay for, and distribute a vaccine. We need to improve our regulatory capacities on immunization, build vaccine post-marketing surveillance, boost vaccination programs, and improve or adapt our cold chain facilities.
With the revolving fund, participating countries can buy high-quality, life-saving vaccines for their national immunization programs at lower costs, and has been vital in eliminating polio, measles, mumps, and rubella from the region.
The more countries that join, the stronger we will be.
PAHO says as of July 13, we have reached 6.8 million cases and 288,000 deaths across the region of the Americas. See you next time for another informative report on Living Healthy.
In regional news, Caribbean Airlines, CAL, will launch its services to the Eastern Caribbean today. CAL says that the service will initially operate between Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada. Other destinations will be added once the regulatory approvals are received. On Tuesday, Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit announced that his administration had given the green light for CAL to fly into Dominica. The move by CAL comes as shareholder governments of the regional airline Liat moves towards the liquidation of the Antigua-based airline. In Guyana, the Misenga Jones versus Gecom case is heading to the Court of Appeal after the ruling of Chief Justice Roxanne George on Monday.
The notice of the application was made known by Attorney-at-Law Roysdale Ford, representing the applicant. Ford said that the application will be filed on Tuesday. He also requested that the Chief Elections Officer and Chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, Gecom, await the outcome of the ruling of the appeal court, as they have done in the past.
We are grateful for your decision, Your Honor, and your time and your legal expertise that is reflected in the judgment. Your Honor would, as you have said in your closing remarks, Your Honor, that this case and the issues raise substantial issues of constitutional importance and of importance to the nation as a whole. In the circumstances, Your Honor, whilst we are not required to seek the court's leave to appeal to the Court of Appeal under Article 133, Your Honor, we wish to inform the court and the parties that we intend to so file an appeal to the Court of Appeal.
This call and application of appeal was supported by Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Basil Williams, Senior Counsel.
It has been the established practice of the Chairman of Gecom that once we have indicated clearly that we intend to see it in relation to issues that are germane for the entire country, and perhaps to the future of this country.
The Chief Justice, in handing down her decision, first ruled that the court had jurisdiction to hear the matter. She then determined that the recount was valid, pointing to the fact that it was recognized by the Caribbean Court of Justice. As such, she ruled that figures emanating from the recount would supersede the declarations by the 10 returning officers. Isaiah Braffett for InfoHub.
St. Lucia's Prime Minister Alan Chastanet says crime is a high priority for the state following an uptick in gun-related crimes over the past few weeks. The government leader says he is not averse to considering reimposing a curfew to maintain law and order. Stanley Lothian of HTS News Force has that story.
Violent crime has succeeded in doing what few other subjects could: dominate the headlines in this COVID-19 climate. This dubious distinction has not escaped the attention of the Prime Minister and, by extension, his cabinet colleagues. Speaking to reporters Tuesday ahead of the sitting of Parliament, Prime Minister Alan Chastanet said the issue weighed heavily on his mind.
Not a good situation, but I've been speaking to the Commissioner of Police. Clearly we've seen some form of revenge crime that's been taking place, and they're on top of it. I mean, we've put a lot of additional resources into play, and I can say to you I meet on a weekly basis with the police department, and this is of high priority for the state and will continue to be a very high priority for the state.
Women are historically underrepresented as victims of homicides in St. Lucia, but there have been 2 female victims in as many weeks. The recent spike in gun-related violence coincides with the relaxation of the curfew, prompting calls in some quarters for the reimposition of the restrictive measures. Prime Minister Alan Chastanet said this matter was under consideration.
It always is. I mean, we learned a lot during the process of COVID. We learned how the curfew can be used, and whereas people may also not be interested in hearing about, the zones also worked a lot in helping the police officers significantly on the area of crime. We now know that can work. And if it's something that we have to do, that this government will be prepared to look at re-implementing a curfew if necessary.
Few communities have been untouched by the scars of violent crimes, with guns the weapons of choice. From a lull experienced during the imposition of the curfew, the criminals are back at it, at a rate that stretches the resources of law enforcement and tests the resolve of decision makers. Stanley Lucian for the HTS News Force.
In sports, we are in the creases with cricket. Former Jamaica cricket coach Junior Bennett is confident West Indies can upset England and retain the Wisden Trophy once they can seize critical moments in the series finale, which starts on Friday. Entering the decisive match at Old Trafford, the three-test series is locked at 1-1. West Indies had taken a surprise 1-0 lead after winning the opening test at the Aegis Bowl by 4 wickets. England won the second match with a 113-run victory at Old Trafford. The International Cricket Council, ICC, has confirmed the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in Australia has been postponed due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. We have more in this report from Newsroom Guyana.
After a lot of internal deliberation, we finally came to a position to take the decision to postpone the 2020 T20 World Cup. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic situation and how we see that developing and across. We need to factor in the amount of complexity that a world-class event with 16 teams participating brings in terms of safety and security of not just the teams, the players, but every person who is involved in making the tournament happen, which would include your broadcasters, your volunteers, your media, and they all play such an integral part. And when you put all of them together, you're looking at close to 20,000 accredited people who are required to run an event. And for that kind of magnitude, to make sure that everybody is safe and secure is an extremely important decision that was taken through. We went to a considerable amount of areas to focus on. We looked at options like air bubbles. We looked at options, could we have it in reduced venues? We looked at options, could we play behind closed doors? And we also looked at the various information that we were getting from government authorities. And taking all that into consideration, we then basically the board took the decision of trying to, postponing the tournament. One of the things that was primary for us also was the fact that we need to kind of maintain a certain level of stature of the events, while ensuring that the health and safety is clearly maintained. We were extremely conscious also of not putting undue pressure on the National Health Services, which would have led to possibility of compromising the kind of facilities that were available to the local public there on this account. So that also played a huge part in coming to the decision on that. On the brighter side, I think what we ended up was the board recognizing that for the betterment of the sport, we needed to come out with clear windows for the 3 ICC events now, which I think is great news. So we have the first window available in October, November 2021 for the T20, with the final being scheduled for 14th of November. We have the second window scheduled for October, November 2022, with the final being scheduled for 13th November. That kind of gives you a very good 12 months gap between the 2 tournaments. And then the board also took the decision of basically moving the ICC Cricket World Cup, Men's Cricket World Cup, from February, March 2023 to October, November 23, with the final being scheduled for 26th of November, which kind of is a huge step in the right direction for the sport, because it now just gives you a very clear gap between the various things. Plus it helps us also make sure that we can plan the events given the stature of the events and ensuring the health and safety of all the people concerned.
Tell us about the importance of the decision to move the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup 2023 back by 6 months.
I think it's extremely important, and I think it's a huge step for the sport, because what it does is It basically now enables our various members to be able to play their domestic and the bilateral series, which has been disrupted on account of the COVID-19. It provides that time. It also provides the time for players to basically, train and get ready for the big stage, whether it is T20 or whether it's the Cricket World Cup. And most importantly, it basically helps us retain the integrity of the qualification process to ensure that the Cricket World Cup is the biggest event, 2023 is the biggest event for that to happen.
Have any decisions been taken regarding the staging of the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup 2021 as yet?
We continue to evaluate the situation in relation to planning for the event in the current window of February, March 2021. And while that evaluation process is being undertaken, the planning for the event continues as scheduled. That's really where we are on that.
In the weather report at 9 a.m., the center of Tropical Depression 7 was located 2,065 kilometers east of the southern Windward Islands. The depression is moving towards the west-northwest near 19 kilometers per hour. A generally westward motion at a faster forward speed is expected during the next few days. Maximum sustained winds are near 55 kilometers per hour with higher gusts. Strengthening is forecast during the next couple of days, and the depression is expected to become a tropical storm later today. Tropical Depression 7 is not a threat to Jamaica. The Meteorological Service will continue to monitor the progress of this system. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.